Welcome, and for those of you who might be viewing this at a distance, my name is Don Payne, and I serve here as one of the Associate Deans working with the mentoring process. We're very grateful, as I mentioned a moment ago, to have you as a very integral part of the seminary education process as mentors, and I'll be explaining as we go more of what we mean by that. You have in front of you some notes, some PowerPoint slides, and you may want to follow along, though I'll not spend equal amounts of time on every one of those. We'll not go through every single point. Some of these points are a little bit more self-explanatory, but I do want to cover the kind of issues, the kinds of challenges, and the material that's going to be most helpful to you as mentors. This is how we'll roughly spend our time. First, I want to give you a brief introduction to Denver Seminary, if you are not all that well acquainted with the seminary, just enough to at least give you some backdrop for this mentoring process and why we do this. We'll talk a little bit about mentoring, the mentoring process, the mentoring structure itself, how that operates, what the different roles are, the different pieces, how they fit together, and then we'll be even more specific toward the end with some discussion of the mentor-mentee relationship, some ideas for how to spend time, how to get out of the gate, how to keep that relationship being fruitful and productive, and some things maybe to avoid along the way. I do want to be very interactive. We don't have such a large number today that we can't be interactive with each other, so I'd like for you to hop in at points if you have ideas or thoughts that would be helpful to all of us. Denver Seminary's mission, now everybody these days has a mission statement, and we do too, but we take it very seriously, and we try to reflect this mission statement in every piece of our educational process. Denver Seminary prepares men and women to engage the needs of the world with the redemptive power of the gospel and the life-changing truth of Scripture. Now that covers a lot of territory, but it takes a lot, and it takes a lot of different types of training experiences to equip people who in various kinds of contexts and in various ministry roles can do that. And our mentoring process, the mentoring part of our curriculum, is a very integral part of that. I'll talk about these learning outcomes in just a moment, but a bit more background to why we do this. We actually started our mentoring process in late 1998, and at that point we did a pretty massive curriculum overhaul and embedded a mentoring requirement in the core curriculum of every degree program and give a pretty substantial amount of academic credit for it. So we take this stuff very seriously, and we consider it as important as any other aspect of our educational process. It's obviously not the only aspect, but through our mentoring curriculum, we're able to provide some opportunities, some resources, some tools for students to address areas of their life, faith, ministerial development that are very difficult to develop in a classroom setting. That does not in any way diminish the importance of the classroom or of the classical academic curriculum, but it does simply say that there are things every one of us need in our various ministry roles that we can't learn in the classroom. We have to learn them differently. We have to learn them relationally. We have to learn them experientially. We have to learn them interactively. And there were a lot of studies done of seminary education in the early 1990s when seminary education was under a lot of scrutiny. And at that time, some of those studies were showing that the trends in seminary graduates were that many of them may have done very well academically, but they either had, in some cases, very substantial character flaws that had been unaddressed, or from a competency standpoint, were unable to actually do ministry in an effective, sustainable way. And this feedback began to work its way back upstream into the seminary process, and so a lot of schools, ourselves included, began to take a really hard look at what we were doing and ask ourselves the hard questions, whether we were preparing people in ways that actually put them in ministry context so that they could be faithful, they could be sustainable, they could have the kind of character that would embody the very things we're talking about in the gospel. That's a postage stamp version of why we're doing this. But it took an enormous amount of work to revise, to recalibrate a curriculum so that mentoring was more than a value to which we gave lip service, but something we take very seriously, and we expect students to take it seriously and engage it as well.